This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to start by welcoming to the show Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Fabulous week out there. Lots of rain, little sunshine. We're ready for fall and winter, it looks like.
Yes, we are.
I know that we were going to get started here on some research that was continued and followed up from the phone numbers that were dialed out to Colorado from Jack's phone bill. And of course, Lindsay had done some stellar research on that. She was able to actually locate what these numbers went to, which I was kind of shocked over. And of course, we're waiting for her to get on because I did not want to start without her.
There's a box that says present. Is that her? Lindsay?
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah. Good
Yay. Perfect timing. All right. Okay. So Lindsay took it upon herself to throw these phone numbers into a search system. Now, what is this search system that you use?
It's cyberbackgroundchecks.com.
Cyberbackgroundchecks.com. Does that cost money?
If you want a thorough search, then yeah, but you can do a basic search on there for free. But I'd pay the monthly whatever fee it is. I think it's only like $6.99 or something like that.
Really? I could probably use something like that, especially with the numerous amount of phone numbers that I've gotten here. So cyberbackgroundchecks.com, huh?
I think both you and I could write that off, then.
Oh, I can. Yes, we can.
Yeah.
We do hear what she found. I mean, like literally,
Okay.
I was pretty stoked. I'm very impressed with what she got here. All right. So she ran the numbers, the 303-494-4774. I think that ultimately you determined that what I found was that was calling in for the accuracy on time, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the second number was the 303-637-6192. And of course, I did go back and look at Jack's records to notice that he also dialed the 6191, which came up in your search during the search for this. You show that this area code covers Denver, Aurora, Arvada, Westminster, and Boulder. And at first I thought to myself, like, wow, like Boulder, Colorado, you mean we're about ready to step into this whole JonBenet Ramsey thing? Like, this is a little crazy, but it looks to me like it might be wrapping out to something completely different. So we're going to cover what it was that she found. So, hello, I guess I need to get to my presentation. There we go. Now it works. All right. So you found that these phone numbers led back to actual articles in newspapers, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The first one you found was Big Spring Herald. And that is an article date of May 31st, 1996. Wow, some of this writing is just so small. I laughed because one of the first things I saw in there was actually a cartoon of I'm not Bob, I'm not Bill, campaign 96. So far, it says. Clearly one is Bill Clinton. Who's the other guy?
I think it's
Bob
Al
Dole.
Gore.
No, it's Bob Dole.
Oh,
Dole?
okay.
Robert
Okay.
Dole, yeah.
Now, what were they running for? What was the campaign
President.
in 9? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Tells you
that
how much
was about
I
Clinton's time, yeah.
Yeah, and I certainly didn't vote for him, so I don't even recall. But yeah, so that was a very interesting little article there. And some of the other articles that I found, and I'm just going to brief through them. I'm not going to read them. A felon's conviction overturned because he understood his sentence. This was a child molester. Basically, he had committed some child crimes and he had pled guilty. And in his actual sentencing, his attorney read to him the sentences that he could possibly receive by admitting to this plea of guilty. And then it was ultimately overturned and he was released because they said the judge didn't read those sentences to him, that his attorney did, and that somehow that was foul play by the court. The court should have read it, but either way, he got off and he was released, set free.
Do they retry him though?
No,
Normally they recharge and retry.
I couldn't, but he was pleading guilty. So there was no trial.
Right, but that's a technicality. The judges are supposed to read the advisal.
Okay, but it wasn't for a lack of him knowing what his potential sentences were, obviously.
And also, if the DA did not object, the DA should have objected first of all.
The judge should have, if it was the judge's job. I know.
Yeah, that was just was bad lawyering and judging. But at the same time, it's harmless error if he understood it. But as long as you review the word for word advisals and they're the same thing the judge would have read, but that's what they call a technicality.
That's a stupid technicality. So from what I can tell, and to me, I thought to myself, like, honestly, was that something pre-planned? You know,
yeah,
by
that's
the
what it seemed like to me. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would think in most jurisdictions, well, in California anyway, that they would be recharged and retried.
Yeah. I just know that so many times in the courtroom when an attorney tries to tell the judge what his job is or tries to object to something that is obviously the judge's job to make a decision on, the judge loves to slam these attorneys and say, hey, that's my job. That's why I sit here. That's why I get the big money.
I'm the one wearing the robe.
Right. I'm the gatekeeper. I get to make those decisions, blah, blah, blah. Either way, it was just an interesting article. And then we, of course, had this gentleman, Borda. He was actually a colonel in the military who supposedly committed suicide over some stupid questions in regards to two little bows that he was wearing for some service that he had done. And they claimed that he wasn't in active battle when he was, in fact, on a ship because I believe he was Navy. Either way, it's a very suspicious death surrounding this guy supposedly committing suicide as a colonel in the military because somebody questioned whether or not he should be wearing ribbons that attributed to him being in active combat. I thought that is the most ridiculous reason for suicide I've ever heard in my life. Anyways, had to share that.
Especially if he was deemed to be in combat. If he was on ship during the combat, then technically he is involved in combat. He may not be like pulling a trigger or be exposed to gunfire or weaponry, but he's at war at that point, basically.
Why couldn't those ships be blown up just like any other ship? I mean, technically speaking, if you're where the freaking war is, you have a potential for being blown up, whether you're on land or at sea. That's what I thought.
But again, back to your point, it seems like it's unless it was true, the allegations were true, and he got embarrassed so badly that he was trying to say something that wasn't true. But from what I'm hearing, it was true. So why would you kill yourself over that?
and you know, what I really picked up from the article, which really kind of, it just fits in with what I've been saying about media weaponizing themselves against people, is that it appears as though this was a I gotcha type media project of we're going to defame and you know, denounce you and make you look bad. But even then, nothing was so bad that somebody would want to commit suicide over it. However, we're seeing the media actively weaponizing themselves against individuals, obviously to either tarnish their record or to bring them down or to do something. And ultimately they claim this guy committed suicide, but it possibly could have been suicided. And this is just the story or the background that they've put together in order to facilitate their narrative.
Yep.
Another article that was extremely interesting to me was a murder attempt in cartel hierarchy shows rules changing around Cali. And the bottom line is it's still showing Colombia is the head of cocaine and cartels, and we have people, killing people and taking people out, and again killing family members, which is going to bring us to something else that you've researched, Lindsay, on the Rudier case, so we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes. But aside from that, I did find that your research showed that the ad that we're about to talk about that shows that phone number that Jack called came out in 4 different newspapers, one in Indiana, one in Kentucky. I know that this only includes Port Arthur, Texas, but we clearly see that it did run in a newspaper for Big Springs, Texas as well. And then Laurel, Mississippi on the Laurel Leader newspaper. None of these did I find consistent with any of the other newspapers. Did a little research on the Big Springs. It didn't look like it was anything ever owned by Hearst. So I was trying to see if there was any tie in there as to why, or maybe, and we see this one on March 31st, or May 31st. And Jack makes the phone calls on June 10th, which is obviously 4 days after the Rudier escapade, and at least after the point I can think of. So what I'm trying to read here is that in Indiana it ran the 8th through the 14th. That's what that's indicating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Real quick, on the last slide, the author, the columnist was Mike Royko, and he used to run in the Bee. Now I don't know if he wrote for the Bee and now syndicated, or the Bee carried his syndicated column, but his column used to run in the Bee.
Sacramento Bee?
Yeah.
Huh. So, which is also where, okay. All right.
It's just a little side.
Yeah, a little side note. Corbin, Kentucky, it ran May 25th, 1996 through June 15th, but it didn't run on May 29th and on June 2nd. So it sounds to me like they paid for that ad to run through that entire time. Port Arthur, Texas ran only May 30th, 1996, June 6th, and June 13th. So only 3 actual runs in Port Arthur, Texas. And Laurel, Mississippi ran from June 1st through June 21st, but not on the 2nd or 8th of June. So we now have a place where this phone number appears. The Big Herald, I kind of did a breakdown just to see where it's at. It indicated that it was only circulated within the let's see, Howard County area of West Texas, which is approximately 900 square miles. We can see that that is literally up over in this direction. Jack is down here in the Seguin, Texas area based on the mail that we're looking at, which is approximately 4 hours and 52 minutes away from it, with the closest drive to Big Springs, where this actual newspaper could have been picked up. So it kind of boggles me how Jack came across this newspaper article to begin with, since it was so far away.
Where did the officer allegedly commit suicide? In Texas?
It would have been Big Springs. So, at least, let's see. Jeremy Borda killed himself with a bullet to the chest. Now, not many people kill themselves with a bullet to the chest. I mean,
that's hard to do.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And there's little mystery as to why he did it. The Navy's top man knew it was likely he would soon end his remarkable career in embarrassment, shame, or even disgrace. How? Doesn't even make any sense. If he was given these ribbons, he was given these ribbons. And you have to get given them, right? You don't just give them to yourself, right?
I hope so.
Well,
I do too.
Any ribbons that you bear on your chest has been given to you by a superior officer somewhere. At least that's the way I thought it worked. Let's see. The reason until a year ago he had worn 2 tiny ribbons on his chest that indicated he had been in combat in Vietnam. Military experts now differ as to whether he was entitled to wear these ribbons. Some say no because he had not been directly involved in combat. Others say yes because he served on ships that were in the combat zone, and others say maybe. So it's the stupidest thing ever for anybody to have willingly committed suicide over. I can't make out. It is coming up in the Big Springs, Texas. So I'm thinking Borda 56 was almost certain to be on the media hot seat and wanted to stick it to Admiral Borda, maybe those who had an axe to grind, jealous colleagues, or someone with a grudge. So they're looking at it, from very different ways as to why this even became a news. But we know that the newspapers and the media love that whole "we gotcha" moment, whether it's true or not. Newsweek climbed on board. I see all kinds of, it says, it was too juicy of a story for today's gotcha journalist to resist. A man of prominence and achievement, but with a hidden and embarrassing secret and flaw. Makes no sense to me. Anyways.
They tried to make it exciting.
Right? So they could be talking about somebody from a different area, but it ran in the Big Springs issue. Mm-hmm. Needless to say, like we were saying, this article, or at least this particular newspaper, was approximately 331 miles away from Jack. And in the classified section, Lindsay, you found, tell us about this one. Haha.
So when I first searched it up, I found the several newspapers, but only certain ones, as you stated. And then the first thing that caught my eye was the word secret. And I was like, wait, is this the number? Is this number under this? Because it had, it pulls the number that I searched and it highlights it. So my eye immediately went there to secret, and I was like, secret banking systems. Oh my God! And then I just was stuck in that little rabbit hole for probably a couple of hours or so, and I just started jotting every single thing down, like the dates that this particular ad ran. And then, as you can see, what something odd about it, I thought was it's a 24-hour recorded line with a pre-recorded message, reveals whatever you need to get this $4,000 to open this new bank account, to make this $4,000. I guess they're trying to get you to open a bank account.
It makes it sound to me, it said, okay, so the ad reads, secret banking systems, open bank accounts, make $4,000 a day. Amazing 24-hour free recorded message reveals details. And it has two numbers, and both of these numbers can be found on Jack's bill. I took that to mean that they're asking people to assist in opening bank accounts for others. I mean, how many bank accounts does somebody need?
I think it's a code. Nobody's going to reply to that. I think it was a contact number for Jack.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a code.
We were definitely thinking in that direction, because it's like I used to tell my dad. My dad was a huge get me on for all of these, make $32,000 a month doing blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Dad, if that were possible, wouldn't everybody do it? Nobody'd be working anymore. We'd all just hop onto that bandwagon and we'd all make it happen. So either this makes Jack look like less than an intelligent individual for reaching out to these individuals to make $4,000 a day, or there's more to this particular, and it is listed in the classifieds, unless I remind you, we just got done talking about the fact that the cartel and the mafia and all of these people in the syndicate still exist in 1996, and that the CIA and all of these other individuals actually use the classified newspapers to give messages back and forth. And we've actually seen that occur in the Zodiac case, right? Where they're talking from the, I forgot the Zodiac sign that was on it, but they were talking to the Zodiac in regards to other people, the masters and so forth, in, I believe, this group of individuals. But yes, this was a very interesting find, Lindsay. So I went ahead and I mapped that out. Port Arthur, Texas would have been another likely place because it's in Texas that Jack could have received it. So I ran those distances, and literally from where Jack was at, this is Port Arthur is 3 hours and 37 minutes away, and 250 miles if you drove straight through Highway 10 all the way to Port Arthur, which really lines up against the border of Atlanta, Georgia, basically, which I've discussed before. The path that Jack would take was Highway 10 in most cases. So I did one more search and I looked at it in relation to League City and Galveston. It's approximately an hour and 28 minutes away from League City and Galveston. So much closer, obviously, to that location than the other location. But very far out there for Jack to have driven, to have received, picked up, or gotten this particular newspaper. And of course, Port Arthur was a completely different newspaper. It didn't say which one. It just said Port Arthur, Texas. So it didn't actually say what the newspaper was that ran it. So I couldn't check on that one. Either way, very, very interesting. Now, this is the Laurel Leader. This one ran in Mississippi. So it clearly has. And so was this a reach out to 4 different members of the group?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
To tell them or let them know, and they would be able to decode. I mean, clearly, Jack was a man of coding and decoding. If that message was received on the other end. So I went back and I looked to see how long Jack had actually spent on these particular phone calls. I want to say that on let's see here. Come on. Okay. Nope, that's time.
I think you passed it.
You did?
I saw it when you.
I think it was back further because it was June. Oh. Huh, you're right.
Yeah,
Let me see. Yeah, that's 1995, 96, February. YouTube.
Right there.
No, that's cable bills. Nothing there. Okay, right here. So on June 10th, there was 3 phone calls placed. And that means that he had to have gotten it from he either picked that newspaper up from somebody else that had sent it on to him after that date, because I don't believe that the dates actually coincide with the Texas runs, but we don't know when Big Springs actually ran it. So he spent 1 minute on the phone message with 6191. So why turn around and call 6192? I would assume that they put 2 phone numbers in there if it were to compensate for several phone callers, right? If one was busy, you could call another kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So he did 1 minute at the 6191 number. Then he did the 6192 and spent 2 minutes on it. And then he turned around and he called back. And this all happened between 10:26 and 11:30 p.m. on the 10th. So he did 2 minutes and then he called back and spent another minute on the 6192 number. Why so many times if you got the information that you needed?
Again,
he was writing it down.
It wasn't what it purported to be. That's my take, anyway.
Yeah.
Say that again. It was what?
The ad wasn't what it was purported to be. It was something else, and he was supposed to call it and get certain information, and he did.
He did. He certainly.
And he had to call both numbers.
Yeah. Even though that says or, that may be an indication you need to call both to get exactly what it is that you need to get from it. Who knows?
Yeah.
And the information might have been in code too.
Well, you know what? And let's err on the side of, devil's advocate and say this was just a scam. Does that mean that we've been being scammed by people for a very long time?
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
And I saw even more things that look like scams inside that newspaper as I was reading the classifieds. I did actually download and print out the entire newspaper from Big Springs. So, well, that brings us to, and by the way, I did look up the dancing at Rayleigh's. I do not know why that girl even put out there that I should even look at that. That literally was some type of ridiculousness where 5 people from out of the country had been temporarily held as being suspicious, but were then released because they had nothing to do with the 9/11 attacks. But then this conspiracy theory or the story came about how they were dancing to the success of the 9/11 events, which turned out to be completely false and untrue. But, it's got to run its realm with everybody as far as conspiracies are concerned. So there was really nothing to take off of that. And I don't know why that person referred me to even look at that. That was the stupidest thing I ever read.
Well, I think it's because Israel had had a partake into the 9/11.
Well, they want to try and say that.
That's where she got it from.
Yeah.
Well, but even then, so these people have been found to be innocent, released. They were just tourists, right? They probably went back home, no big deal. Whatever they were doing probably had nothing to do with the 9/11 events at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been released and sent home. I mean, I did watch that movie, like I said, where they held that one guy that they thought had some information. Not that he was part of, but he had some information. And he was held 7 years? in Guantanamo being tortured and beaten and sleep deprived and music blaring at them and all these things that we see on the Ozark Netflix series. So if they would have done that to these 5 if they thought literally there was anything that they had to offer.
DWB, Dancing While Brown.
Oh my gosh.
That is crazy, but funny. Now, what you led me to, however, Lindsay, on the other hand, literally bought up my entire morning this morning because none of what we're about to share right now was even in my presentation until this morning. I thought I might as well take a look at this Darlie Routier stuff and see what's going on. And I think that I vaguely remember back in whatever time frame it was, the spraying of the silly string and everybody jumping on board against this woman who purportedly was appearing to have too much fun after her children had died. I don't know about you, but I've been to several celebrations of life where we literally partied, had a great time, shared stories, laughed and giggled, and it was over the death of somebody. Like this, it is possible.
Well, and this was actually for his birthday because
right,
and that was like one of his favorite things to do at his parties was the silly string. So I mean, even if it was a celebration of life, like I mean, in Mexico, that's what they do at memorials. They literally feast and spend time with each other, and it's like a party.
Right.
So.
And nobody.
Yeah, it's standard. I mean, there's a funeral, there's a wake, there's this and that. But the celebration of life is a celebration of the person and the way they live their life. And they would want you to party, right?
Right. And a birthday is just that, a celebration of life. So
and all the invitations and stuff had already went out for his party for that day, so they wanted to let the people that were invited to his party originally come to the gravesite and literally celebrate and do like a little party for him.
And I know in the middle of some of my grief over people having passed, I've had my moments of laughter, giggles, and otherwise. And it seems to be some way for solace or to, alleviate some of that pain and grief that's going on in your heart, to give you a moment of positivity. And it is not a bad thing by any means. So I wanted to talk about Darlie Routier because I am more interested in her husband now than I thought I ever could be.
Me too.
Whoa. Okay.
Yep.
I'm glad you said that. So she's basically sentenced to death for the murder of one son and has not actually been to trial for the second son at this point, which really makes no sense. Basically, she claimed to have fallen asleep on the couch and the kids had done a sleepover with her downstairs. Her husband and the youngest child were upstairs. This all really kind of sounds really familiar to some of the cases that we've talked about where others were in the house and claimed to have not heard a thing while somebody was being murdered. So we know that this is possible because it's happened more than once throughout our presentation. I'm just a little confused on her injuries because nowhere could I find that she said she engaged this particular intruder or fought with him. So I'm a little discombobulated on that, but hopefully you can enlighten me because, like I said, I haven't had a lot of time. They are appealing again and they're running DNA tests since 2018. I did not find any information in regards to the completion of these tests or what they surmised. We know that there was ongoing. And how? That just blows. We're solving crimes like D'Angelo, and as of recently, some more based on DNA, and it's taken how long since 2018 to get these DNA tests done? This is a little disgusting as far as I'm concerned. This test should have been ran immediately. If this woman is innocent, she doesn't belong spending another day in prison, just like Peter Wilson. Now, from what I can grab from the scene is that they indicated there was a thumbprint on an end table that did not match any of the family members. However, one forensics technician had indicated that he could not exclude the ring finger of Darlie as being the print that was there. Now, not being able to rule somebody out is different than being able to make an identification. And this kind of lousy forensic testifying that we saw in Peter Wilson case is really what I'm reading has gone down in this particular case as well. So basically on June 6th of 1966, she goes to sleep at 2:31 in the morning. She's dialing 911. She happens to be the one that calls the police. I don't know if I could literally commit a crime such as that and then turn around and call the police. But some of the evidence that's really disturbing me is this sock with blood on it that is a match to the blood from the family that was found 75 yards outside of the house. And it is indicated there's no possible way for her to have left the scene of the crime while on the phone with the impending death of the second son, who purportedly only would have lasted 8 minutes, bleeding out in the manner in which he was stabbed. And she was on the phone with 911 for 6 of those minutes. So that would have left her 2 minutes to literally jog 225 feet down the road, drop a sock, jog back 225 feet. And then they claim she cleaned herself up at the kitchen sink. Did she really? I'm really trying. I'm trying to suck all this down, but I'm having a hard time.
If you look at the photos of the sink, it clearly does not look like she was cleaning up. It clearly looks like she was in there, like trying to get away or trying to get some towels for the boys to cover their wounds, because apparently she had some dish rags in there, and that's what she went in there for. And then if you look at the scene photo of the sink, it literally looks like she was searching for something. So it's clear indicator to me
so
that
right
she
here
was going over there to get some dish towels to cover up the wounds and try to, do whatever she can for the boys while the.
Did they find the murder weapon?
Yeah. So let me. Oh, where am I going? All right. So evidently this is a butcher knife. Or this is a knife from the butcher block. It looks like a bread knife, basically, to me, that was used for this. The blood, and you can see the schematic up over here that is describing the blood from red is supposed to be Damon. So that is here, and we have blood over here. Darlie, we have blood pretty much all over the place. I mean, here's the kitchen, here's the utility room, but she did indicate she felt that the intruder had left out the utility room, and that her blood being found here probably would be explainable if she had chased after this individual. And then Devon in yellow was literally kind of just isolated to this one spot. So that would almost indicate if this blood of this individual is being tracked all over the place, is either being tracked by the assailant or literally is being ran around the entire house. And her blood is pretty much everywhere, back and forth. Mm-hmm. But as you said, if she's going to the kitchen and grabbing, towels and making her way back over to the boys, that would explain how her blood then ends up in these locations as well. It is a horrendous crime scene. I mean, look at this house, though. It's a very affluent. Go ahead, Nolan.
Couple of questions. Was the knife from inside the house? Was it her
yes.
knife? Okay. Yes. And where was the father in all this?
Upstairs, supposedly asleep with the infant, not woken to anything until his wife screams for him at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There was a third child then, a younger child?
Yes, a 7-month-old that was upstairs with him.
And apparently, he was.
So the kids didn't scream when they were being killed?
Evidently, she had awoken, I think, to hearing one of the children scream. But that doesn't tell me when she was stabbed versus them. Again, we're not getting really kind of a clear story of what transpired. She made it sound as though she woke up to a scream, found both of them stabbed, and I would assume at that point that she was also injured herself or stabbed.
Yeah.
Why didn't
she was when she woke up, she was already stabbed. So a lot of people think, including her stepsister, who is on her side and trying to get her out because of this, because they don't think obviously she did it. They think that she was in some type of psychosis, maybe passed out, and she doesn't remember. And so the bits and pieces that she does remember that she has reported, it doesn't make sense because it's different pieces. Because as we know, our brain it actually is used as a defense mechanism in our brains to protect us from certain things. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's literally how the brain works. So it could possibly cause some type of psychosis where it's trying to protect you from things that it doesn't want you to remember, if that makes sense. You can look it up. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but it is definitely definitely a scientific thing that can
I
happen and
just
has happened in many cases.
I
So,
was just watching a I
oh,
was
sorry,
just watching I was just watching a reality show not too long ago, in which case one of the individuals had been woken up by their significant other. And of course, he went to bed kind of inebriated. So if she's on any type of drugs for postpartum depression or anything else that could have inebriated her to a certain degree, he gets woken up, and literally for the first 5 to 6 minutes, he is so out there. He asked the same question 7 times. Like his brain could not click and come to and
yeah,
like rationalize what was occurring at that very moment. So for
yeah,
her to have woken up in that state, but would also somebody wake up after being stabbed? She says she was woken up by the scream of the son versus, would you wake up to your body being slashed and stabbed like that?
Was the dad ever a suspect?
No, evidently, which is very interesting. So he evidently, when they met, was a 17-year-old assistant manager at some joint that eventually grew really fast into great degrees of wealth. You can see this house here. It's a gorgeous house. The neighborhood, absolutely beautiful. The amount of jewelry she's got sitting just in one location, I'm sure doesn't encompass every single piece she owns, but you can see there's a lot of gold sitting on that counter. Very nice.
He actually, he was a self-made, I guess, I don't know how much he would made, but he was a self-made, what do you call it?
Entrepreneur?
Yeah, entrepreneur. And they made, the computer boards. What were they called?
You were saying that.
Motherboards?
Yes, he created those. That's what they created in his business.
That's extremely, and then puts it right up there in the realm of if somebody wants that business, they're able to take it. Some of the theories, and now look, I see this, crime scene again with all this blood everywhere. And one of the theories was that he had, or that they were in financial straits and owed a lot of money. Now, to whom, we don't know. One could suspect to the mob, because that seems to be who you borrowed money from those days. And the taking of children or family members in order to instill some type of message is something we've definitely seen them do. But the DA actually suspected that this was a financial motivation. She was trying to alleviate herself of expenses of these children. But why kill the 2 older ones? They're much cheaper than the younger one. And they only had life insurance policies of $10,000 a piece, which was only going to be enough to literally actually bury them. Turns out the husband had a life insurance policy of $800,000. So why not kill the husband instead of the kids?
That seems like an odd motive. Yeah.
Very odd motive.
It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah.
But that's what they wanted to claim. So basically, going through this information and fingerprint expert Pat Wertheim would later testify before an appeals court that he could not rule out Darlie Routier's right ring finger as the source of the print. But nobody can explain this bloody sock 75 yards from the house. I did read additional information that indicated that the DA, it sounds to me like another Peter Wilson case where they, withheld information. They did limited forensics. Then they testified badly to those forensics in order to secure a conviction. I've read an article that now says one of the jurors who had convicted her of being the culprit has now stated that themselves and other jurors have indicated that they decided this case wrongly and that it couldn't have been her that killed them. I just look at her. Let's go back. I just look at her wounds and wonder how anybody could inflict this type of pain to themselves. She is bruised all over her hands.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand.
Cut marks. Yeah. I mean, cut marks up and down her arms. She's got slash marks across her neck. And I'm trying to imagine how she would have done this one that trailed all the way down her shoulder. I would have thought if this was so excruciating, once you cut this one initial part, you wouldn't have continued on.
Yeah.
Downward. And this actual gap right here makes me wonder if she wasn't in a laying down position where the shoulder was then tucked more closely to her opposite side of her neck that she was cut on. And then that's how that skip in that cut actually appeared, is because her shoulder was folded in because she was truly laying down sleeping.
Yeah, if the neck one was deeper than the other one, that would seem to be a skip, and then just the tip of the knife caught the shoulder.
Right. And and of course they said something like 2 millimeters away from actually cutting her jugular, so she would have died. And maybe the culprit did think that he successfully cut her jugular. Now, there's been some recent information in which the ex-husband, he believes her innocence and had believed her innocence. They divorced in 2011, but new information has revealed that he had wanted to do an insurance scam and was looking around for individuals to rob the house, steal his property that he could then turn around and reclaim from the burglars once it had occurred, and that this was or may have been the attempt to do so. There's talks about infidelity. There's talks about financial ruins. There's talks about a bad marriage. But the bottom line is that he eventually admitted to the fact that he was, if not joking about it, he says he never acted on it. He never actually paid anybody to do it, but that he was talking with other individuals, including Darlee's stepdad or something like that, in regards to perpetrating this burglary or this robbery as an insurance scam to get caught up. And Nolan, what's crazy is all he owed was $22,000.
That's nothing.
It's nothing.
And here's the deal. This guy, he was super young, right? I mean, he made his money young.
Yeah.
And they needed to look at him a lot closer, all his dealings and whatnot, before they prosecuted her. I think they jumped the gun. I'm not saying she wasn't guilty, and I'm not, but I'm saying that there's a lot of loose ends, shall we say, to just jump, like to rush to judgment.
Right. Yeah. So I looked up who is Darren Rudier. Darren and Darlee Rudier had met at a restaurant in Lubbock, Texas. You guys, Lubbock is where Jack is from. Okay. Of all the places in that gigantic state, Lubbock, Texas. On the afternoon of Mother's Day in May of 1985, after the latter's mother had set up a meeting between them, working at the same eatery where Darren, at just 17, proved to be an ambitious assistant manager, she knew that he'd be a good match for her 15-year-old daughter. So in 1985, they waited till 1988 to get married until she turned 18. So he's literally 20 years old when they get married in 1988. They had their first date that same evening, fell in love, became inseparable. In fact, they only waited till August of 1988 to get married due to their age. And it says that he was an entrepreneur since he was 13 years of age. And Darren was doing very well at the time as an assistant manager. Okay. Yeah. Well, so then that means that I then map out why, again, does Jack keep these phone bills? If Jack was notorious for keeping all his receipts, I wouldn't be questioning it. But like my dad, who kept everything, he had every bill and every receipt all the way back to the dawn's end of time. He had kept throughout his entire life, and I had to discard it when he passed. Here with Jack, he only keeps certain things. And of course, these phone bills happen to be two of the things he kept. I thought the Boulder, Colorado stuff was going to relate more to what he was doing with JonBenet Ramsey, but then it turns out to be this whole secret banking system that's going on. So I then MapQuest where the Rudier's crime occurred in relation to Big Springs and Port Arthur. And it looks like both of these areas are about as far away from the Rudier's crime scene as the newspapers that ran are from Jack's house.
Okay.
About 4 hours and 52 minutes, literally. This one's 4 hours and 53 from Rolette, Texas to Port Arthur. I don't know if that makes a succinct triangle or what is going on here, but then Big Springs to Rolette, Texas is 4 hours and 44 minutes. So roughly about the same time frame as it is from Jack's house to Port Arthur. All right. Anybody have anything to add to that? Anything you want to talk about, Lindsay, on that case?
Not on that case personally, but I just finished the I-45 docuseries on Netflix. And it's crazy on how many murders in Texas that people got away with. I think several of those murders they pinned on 3 different people, and rightly so. But there's way more that are unsolved that were solved.
Correct.
And
Yes.
Jack, that's his stomping ground too. So, and I don't know how close this was to I-45, but it's Texas still. It's one of the guys said, Jack, if you want to get away with the murder, do it here.
Do it in Texas. Clearly, do it in Texas. Wide open ranges, hundreds of thousands of millions of miles.
And the ineptitude of the law enforcement and the reluctance to pursue. And then when finally it was a younger girl from a good family, then they pursue it.
Exactly.
But it's like a woman that worked in a bar or this or that, a single mom, blah blah blah. They brought it on themselves. Was the attitude of the cops. And
exactly.
That's just wrong. It's just you don't value one life more than the other. Your duty is to investigate a homicide.
Well, and here's the thing. That's the ad hominem argument. When you can't do anything with evidence or facts, you then beat up on the character of the person, right?
Yeah.
You have to belittle them because you're doing a lousy job and you can't figure it out. So now you've got to make it sound as though.
Or there's complicity with law enforcement, or maybe some of the culprits are affiliated with law enforcement. We see D'Angelo, he was law enforcement. And oftentimes people are either affiliated or are actual law enforcement, and it's or they're security guards, they're uniformed. Jack was a security guard. A lot of different things. Caesar was a security guard.
Right.
A lot of times, uniformed people get away with more shit than someone that's in plain clothes.
Exactly.
And
we know that
they're less suspicious too.
Talked about uniforms that were either security guards or cop-like, which made the person almost trustable for the individuals who were then victimized by that particular individual.
Victimized, and then when they're fleeing crime scenes or whatnot, they're not thought of as suspects.
Exactly. Well, so climbing back into Jack, because I really thought we were going to hit JonBenet Ramsey this week, but it turns out we had to push that forward, and I'm not going to be upset by that by any means, because I really did lose myself down a rabbit hole, and that was some great research, Lindsay. I can't wait to see what we have in store for JonBenet Ramsey. But back to Jack at this point, we have a couple minutes left. We are seeing. I did not know AARP was around since 1996. Did anybody else? I really thought that
they've been around a long time. Yeah,
I had no clue. So it's funny to see some of the stuff you aren't even realizing, that has been around as an insurance. So every time I see anything on insurance, I automatically go to unions. I go to mob paid protection. Like I just, and these insurance companies were the ones that would like to give loans, right? I mean, that's what they were doing back in these days.
I wasn't a member of AARP till 98.
But you are.
No, I'm too old now.
And we have John Walsh doing ads for them too in the 2000s.
Oh, really? Go figure. Yeah, I have so many thoughts about insurance companies. It's unreal. So anyways, on October 16th of 1996, AARP forwarded mail from the 1047 P.O. box, which I believe was Flova's residence, to the Nelda Street address, which is in Seguin, Texas. Billing statements for landlines confirm Nelda Street through at least December of 1996. And we see that on November 6th of 1996, Flova gives power of attorney to Jack in Texas. So we know that he is back in Texas at this point in time for who knows how long. I believe at least until his mother passes. Which brings us to November 11th, 1996, when Jack, so he gets power of attorney of his mother on November 6th, and on November 11th, he takes the entire family to California. That, I guess, also leads me to believe, with, you know what, possibly, but that leads me to believe once again that yes, in fact, Flova is in a care home at this point. So we see these are entries out of Nora's diary, and it is 1996. Stress begins. And unfortunately, we're down to about our last 40 seconds here, and we're going to have to do our sign off. So we're going to be getting into some of the heart of the most interesting parts of 1996, and that is Christmas of 1996, where Jack was and what was going on. I want to thank you again so much, Lindsay, for all your research, and Nolan for being here. Is there anything you guys would like to say before we head out?
Nope. I'm excited for the next one.
All right. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you all next Friday.
Peace.
All right. Thanks.
Oh,